We got to start with Bama LSU. We'll start in the SEC, and then we'll keep moving. Again, if you donate, it's on topic. It will get read. Everybody that's in here, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Blaine, to your point, and I watched our friends react last night, whether it's Blake Ruffino at AYS, whether it was Moscona and T-Bob. I don't know if you guys watched Whiskey and Wine last night with Moscona and T-Bob, but T-Bob basically went all in. He went about as all in as an independent media, or not independent, but affiliated media member could. And I felt his pain. You could tell it was personal, right? We all know how it is when our team loses, but it's not just that you lost. It's the way you lost and what was on the line. So I want to say some good stuff about Alabama first and then get to LSU, because the headline today is going to be LSU's this, Brian Kelly said. I want to make sure Alabama gets their flowers. When Jalen Milroe is able to run the ball like that, and Alabama is able to run the ball like that, they are very, very, very tough to stop. To be honest with you, I thought that first half against LSU was almost as impressive, if not more impressive, than the first half against Georgia. A, because you were on the road, and B, because you really didn't have to throw it. I mean, he threw some underneath routes, took a couple shots, missed them, had some guys wide open. I know it was raining. But Alabama, it was just easy. It was like stealing. And if you look at this Alabama team, that's the formula for them to be able to win a national championship, which I think they're good enough to if all the chips fall right. I don't think this is a dominant team by any stretch of the imagination, but that's how they're going to have to win games. And I know the defense is going to get a little more confidence from that. But from the LSU side, I don't know how – well, I do know how because I watched it. How Jalen Milroe does this to you again, and not only do you look schematically defunct, they took some chances and they got caught. They slanted away from the quarterback run a couple times, including one drive where it just, the defensive line would go one way, the linebackers would go the other. But, David, I mean, you got bullied. You got bullied. Like, look, Nuss had a terrible game. He's the guy I told you he was a little bit, right? When the pressure really starts to come and he's not exactly sure what he's looking at, he really, really, really struggles. But Alabama, it's one thing to get your ass beat. Like, it's another thing to just get beat up in front of your family at a Sandals resort. This was, hey, we're about to fight. We're out in the Costco parking lot. Your family's here. It's like when Major Payne says, like, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this foot and I'm going to stick it right up your ass. Mm-hmm. They told you how they were going to beat you up and then beat you up that exact same way. What is it? What is that Jack Reacher movie, Cone? When he takes the guys out and he's like, all right, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to elbow you in the face. I'm going to kick you in the nuts. Y'all two are going to run. I'm going to flip you over, and then the cops come. And then it exactly happened like that. I was so shocked, David, how outclassed LSU was on both sides of the line of scrimmage last night. And does this say more about Alabama or does this say more about LSU?
Yeah, well, both for sure. Let's start with Alabama. For the entirety of last season and for some games this year, we've been asking, where's the Jalen Milroe run game? He has a skill set that not many other people in the country have. Now, when he goes to the NFL, he may become Lamar Jackson. He may be an MVP thrower. Obviously, he can do things well with his arm, but he has a skill set on the ground that not many other people have. And I think the rain early actually helped Alabama because they were so committed to the ground game. 311 on the ground and no turnovers. Boys, that's a recipe to win the football game. And not only did that run game help open up the pass, to me, it helped open up the right kind of passing. And I was really impressed with how Nick Sheridan got the running backs involved in the pass game. Screen passes. You saw a couple nice Texas routes that were well-timed. And as great as the offense played, boys, that's only half the story. I mean, yeah, the offense put up 42 points. The defense was equally as impressive to me. It was a complete game, man. And for the second time this year, we've seen Alabama coming off of their bye week when they had time to prep for the other team. They had time to rest up, and maybe this performance gives some credence that Jalen Milroe was banged up because, man, he looked healthy there. But for the second time, we've seen him come off the bye week and not just look incredible, but look like a team that can move forward and win the national championship.
Well, Blaine, I want you to obviously, tell us tell me what you think about Alabama. But I mean, Jalen Milroe was 12 of 18 for 109 yards through the air. Really didn't have to throw it. Like that's got to be the most demoralizing part if you're an LSU fan. But when I watch that LSU team run around, how much of it? And listen, there's only so much you can do schematically. Like Blake Baker, I thought from a plan standpoint, did some good things.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're an LSU fan right now, you were outclassed. How is Mike Elko and Texas A&M further along from a talent on the roster standpoint than LSU is in what, year 3 under BK?
Yeah.
Year 4?
Yeah.
You were totally outclassed. And that's credit to Bama. But that just meant that if Bama lined up and played well, they were going to whip your ass. That's what that was. I don't know if there's anything LSU could have really done about it. And this isn't an amazing Bama team. This isn't what we've seen in the past. So if you're an LSU fan right now, it's, oh, God, like our personnel was really this bad. Because if you go back and look, I mean, South Carolina, like who else really? I mean, LSU was able to hang around against Ole Miss enough because Ole Miss wasn't punishing them on the ground the way that Alabama was. But they just were never coming back in this. And Nussmeier, once again, what did they do? Show pressure, bring it. Show pressure, not bring it. Show pressure from one side, bring it from the other. Just like we talked about in Jalen Milroe, that was the question. How healthy is he enough to run the ball? I knew when he hit that 72-yarder that their ass was in trouble, buddy.
Well, it's crazy. I mean, we talk about LSU's losses. There's a little bit of a theme going here, right? South Carolina, Texas A&M, Alabama. What all three of those teams have? They have mobile quarterbacks, right? And LSU has been very bad against that. And it shouldn't take the reign for Alabama to figure out who they are and who Jalen Milroe is. Jalen Milroe, 98% of the time he steps on a football field, is the most athletic guy on that field. All right. You should be a running football team. That is when he is at his best. Passing almost at this point is a dessert. That's your offhand. You can go to it if you want to, but Jalen Milroe is at his best when it's quarterback design runs. And I thought Nikki Sheridan did a great job of having quarterback design runs and giving your best player the ball in the biggest moments. And we flip it to LSU. I go look at Nussmeier. Nussmeier is still making mistakes in critical moments. That pick at the goal line, inexcusable, almost a turning momentum part in this game. And it's just tough for LSU because not only did you get beat up, but where did you get beat up at? And that's at home. And there's going to be a lot of worry for Brian Kelly and this team. And just where do you go from here?
Well, I mean, David, it was an elimination game. You're out of postseason, the highest level of postseason contention. Obviously, LSU's already qualified for a bowl. There's still 3 games left, but you're not getting in the SEC championship now. You're not getting in the college football playoff now. But David, as a former quarterback, and I want to get to the chat, and I know people are very opinionated on this game, and they should be. It's amazing how much of this double A gap bluff we're seeing are pre-snap pressure where teams are walking up the inside backers into gaps, but you have to have a plan for it. I mean, I go back to that drive right before halftime. I mean, Kane Womack wasn't reinventing the wheel. They weren't running a bunch of new coverages or new looks. They were just walking up, mugging that A gap, mugging other gaps, and LSU had no answer for it. Look, you always have the hot. I mean, can you just explain like what that does to a quarterback and then how you adjust to that once you realize what they're doing?
Certainly the development of the RPO game the last few years in football has made defenses say, hey, we have to respond as well. So you're seeing a lot more of those bluff pressures, especially backing out in zone to be able to get into those quarterback lanes. I saw several interceptions last night against zone coverage, and Nussmeier was no different, but that's kind of who he is, right? I've always thought of the kid as a gunslinger ever since I've started seeing him step up in football games. He can make every throw in the book, but also he'll turn the football over. And we talked about this, but we said, hey, Jalen Milroe will do the same thing, right? So what gives here? What gives and what gives in the running game? Can LSU find consistent success on the ground to help Nussmeier out? But yeah, 3 turnovers to Alabama 0. That's just not a great winning strategy. And to me, this has to be the most gut-wrenching loss of Brian Kelly's tenure at LSU for a few reasons. One, you left Notre Dame. You were the winningest coach in Notre Dame history. You left to take the LSU job for this game. He actually called out out Nick Saban and said, I want to go toe-to-toe with Nick Saban. I want to go toe-to-toe with the best, and then beat him in the first year. Won the SEC West, went to Atlanta. Nick Saban now retires, and the conference seems like, hey, maybe this is up for grabs now, and you're in an elimination game. Well, we say elimination game. We haven't played this 12-team experiment out before, but certainly 3 losses. I have a hard time believing any team with 3 losses is going to get in, especially with the way LSU has been looking. And, up and down throughout the year, but now you have Alabama. You're 14-0 under Brian Kelly at night games in Death Valley. You're 4-1 coming off of a bye week. Both of those things are happening. Alabama's look very beatable. They have 2 losses themselves, and you get beat like this, 42-13. It has to be the most gut-wrenching loss for Brian Kelly and these LSU fans.
Yeah, and again, you never gave yourself a chance.
No.
Like you win the toss, you defer. Alabama gets a false start penalty on first down. They run it for 1 yard on or before first downs, first and 15, backed up, run it for 1 yard, and then it was just gutting. I mean, hell, that first long touchdown run, it wasn't like the running back escaped to one side on the zone read and everybody just blew it and Jalen Monroe kept it and went around the end. Hell, he ran where the running back was supposed to go.
Mm-hmm.
Go back and watch that. That turned
it was like duo. It was like duo with the RB lead on ISO there.
I mean, it's if Alabama's able to run they won't be able to run the ball like this against many of the top dogs, but doing it the way they did it last night in Death Valley, live tiger, non-live tiger. I just think it's a big inflection point for Brian Kelly and where this LSU program is from a personnel standpoint. I just, again, with everything on the line, if you were, a middle of the road team that was hosting Alabama, right? If it was like the situation where Bama, is going to see at Oklahoma, where Oklahoma really the season's pretty much done. You go in there, you dominate a team like that. That's one thing. But it was all the marbles were on the table on this one. That's why it was just so shocking that the game wasn't better. If you're an Alabama fan, that game went damn near perfect. But Blaine, what's the chat saying?
All right, chat, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. If you donate, it's on topic. It will get read. We're going to start the day off with a $5 donation from Django. Appreciate it, Django. He says, Bama saw what A&M did to LSU and copied their homework. I'm not surprised. It looked pretty easy to me.
Well, and again, it's a valid point to talk about what Marcel Reed did against LSU, and you can go back and look what mobile quarterbacks have done to him. But they shut down Taylon Green, who I think's the sneakiest runner at quarterback in college football. Now we can talk about health, and I know they're kind of different runners when you look at Green and Milroe, but there's just again, it was a combination of just getting beat physically and then mentally having to take chances and getting like that one drive where Jalen Monroe just kept the ball basically on a lead to the left. It turned into almost kind of like a mid sweep. LSU slanted, and they slanted the opposite way of where the ball went. Like that's just they caught you. We talked about this with Arkansas defensively having to do this a lot, but that was just. I mean, there are other times it was just lining up and it was easy. I mean, it was basically like stealing. Again, only 18 pass attempts. When you look at Milroe averaged 15 yards a carry, something nuts like that. You're just not gonna win, and then it waterfalls. But the last 6 quarters of offense for LSU, I think, and a lot of people are going to talk about the defense of LSU, and they should. But the last 6 quarters offensively for LSU have been absolute garbage, falling off a cliff. I mean, we were talking about this. I mean, this LSU team was a top 5 offense there for a while, guys. It wasn't like they were just meandering around. Nuss was starting to click, but we kept saying when that pressure gets to him, or if it doesn't go exact, he's like, what's that disease? Is it anemia? Where like if you get one cut, like you'll bleed out. Like when it's all going good and everything he sees makes sense to him, he's really, really good. Like NFL good, anticipatory thrower good. But one cut, right? He falls down. There's no almost a horrible catastrophic thing that happened. Like with Nuss, it's if something bad goes wrong, it goes bad 100% of the way. Say what you want, but when he screws up 100%. There's no, you got away with that. And we saw that against USC too.
And now I wonder, just moving forward, what happens for LSU. You still got at Florida, you got Vanderbilt, you got Oklahoma. They'll probably be favored in each of those games. But is there any quit in the team so you end up 8-4, or do they end up 9-3 like they were last year and win a bowl game and you still get to 10 wins and sort of keep some momentum going into recruiting? I mean, only the guys in that building can decide that.
Yeah, we're going to find out a little bit more about the culture. I mean, BK's been there long enough where, it should be set in. So we're going to see.